Hey, thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm Chris Bianchi, joined by 9 News anchor extraordinaire Kim Christiansen for a bit more on the Broncos ownership edition, which this week picked up a notable name, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. And Kim, I guess the big thing I just wanted to get your opinion and your take on here is that's obviously a very big, prominent name that's added to the Broncos ownership group, is it not?
I think it is, and I think it speaks on many levels, on a variety of reasons. Take the politics out of it. I know people get very political, and anybody that has served, as she has, for Secretary of State, there's a lot of discussion about the politics. But you take away the politics, and you just look at her resume, besides the fact that she's got an amazing resume, but she's got these Colorado connections, which you think, well, that's so wonderful if anybody's part of the ownership group with Colorado connections. So, she was here from age 12 on. She went to DU for her undergrad. So she has a connection to Denver. But then you realize her dad was a football coach and raised her with this love of the game. And she is very well known for the fact that she loves football. I mean, she can talk the game better than any of us. I mean, the NFL even talked to her about being a commissioner at one point. So her connection to the sport is really unique. And I think that really stands out when you're hiring or when you're bringing somebody on the ownership group. You always think of people, big business people, and of course you would assume they like football. But to have somebody that grew up around it like that, it's huge.
I didn't know that the NFL talked to her about being commissioner.
Yeah, her name was tossed around a long time ago. So yeah, I mean, it's just she's really somebody that has quite the background with football and respect for the game and understands the game, besides the fact that she knows a lot about diplomacy.
Yeah, she knows a lot about diplomacy.
And international studies.
She, I believe it was between 2005 and 2009, she served as Secretary of State. 2001, 2006, she was the National Security Advisor under George W. Bush. So, so I guess if John Elway has a few questions about diplomacy, he would go to Condoleezza Rice. But that's a facetious joke. Also, of course, it's a very prominent role for the Broncos in terms of taking a lead in minority women, and specifically black women. Melody Hobson, I believe, the Starbucks chairwoman, was the first ever part owner, a black woman part owner, when she was announced as part of the ownership group, initially with Rob Walton and everybody else, and now Condoleezza Rice is part of that as well. So the Broncos kind of taking some pretty big steps, prominent steps in that direction as well.
I would say this ownership group clearly knows they might be overshadowed by those two women, and they're good with it, and they should be. I mean, Melody Hobson alone, if you read about her and study her business background and who she is, it's pretty extraordinary. My college son said, "Oh, I know her. I had to listen to her TED Talk for a class in business." She has some amazing TED Talks when you listen to her and hear her background and her story. So you think of two powerhouse women that you could pick to be part of an ownership group. That's unbelievable. The fact that they're women and, okay, they're black, that matters, but it does matter. It matters in the NFL. They really need to have this representation in the NFL. And so they picked two pretty big deal women. I mean, they have the credentials.
Big deal women. I thought something you said at the beginning there was quite interesting. You think, based off these picks, that the Broncos ownership group's okay deferring some of the spotlight?
If I were smart, I would put them in front and center as much as possible, because they can talk football and they can talk business, and like I said, because of that, went and listened to some of Melody Hobson's TED Talks and some of the speeches she gave. Unbelievable. So she's her command of an audience too is equally important, I think, sometimes. I mean, I don't know. I'm no expert by any means in football. It's just that I follow the game loosely, and I think we're drawn to an owner or somebody that has an interesting backstory, but I also think that you want them. Pat Bowlen is big shoes to fill. He was a big presence. And he had a connection to the community. He had a connection to the team. His name was just everybody knew in Denver and the state and region. Pat Bowlen and the Denver Broncos. So they had these huge shoes to fill. So if they're smart, they really make that group extraordinary with some outstanding people that make that kind of impression. And we haven't heard from the Waltons and the Penners, so they probably will make equal big impression. But for right now, if I'm picking who I want to hear from, I want to hear from those two women.
Well, if they go build a big stadium out by DA, I would imagine there'd be a big presence as well. I guess that would be, you mentioned that Pat Bowlen obviously was a big presence, but for the last 10 years, obviously with his Alzheimer's diagnosis, and before he passed away in 2019, the Broncos ownership has kind of not been so much in the limelight, and now there's the potential for some big prominent names to have pretty big presences in the community, right?
I think it changes a lot. I mean, for just the average fan and the people in Colorado, I think what happened, any kind of diagnosis like that is devastating alone. I think people had so many high hopes that somebody in the family would be able to continue the legacy. And then when you saw the problems there, it was kind of saddening, And then the team, when Peyton Manning retires, the team struggles too. And it just felt like the Broncos were what they once were. And now, the presence of Russell Wilson has been gigantic, and Hackett, and this new vibe. And so I feel like the new owners, also could have that opportunity to say, hey, this is we respect what the Broncos were, and we want to keep it back to where it was in the Elway Manning days. But we're the new team of now.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned it. I mean, ownership was, I think it's safe to say, a bit of a black hole, something that was not discussed in public. It was not a particularly optimistic view the last few years, and now it seems to be a more positive, auspicious view now.
Yeah, and I think, it's to dismiss the fact that the Broncos are kind of a regional team. I mean, they really are a regional team. There are people in the surrounding states that follow the Broncos, and we're going to have a much bigger presence with a lot of high hopes on a new quarterback and a new coach and things like that. People have loosely followed that ownership thing, but really, if you think about owners around the country, there's only a handful the average fan knows. And there's an instantaneous reaction to some of them, good and bad.
Good and bad. Yes, I was going to say, I think about Jerry Jones is divisive, for example.
Right. And so whether you're thinking about whether it's the Patriots or Washington, where they've had tons of problems, Texas, it's those owners you really know, We'll
find out what's going to happen.
And so they have this opportunity to really do this. And of course, if they decide to go with the stadium and everything else, new stadium, that's all up for discussion and the reaction. And of course, if they ask for any kind of tax dollars, that's a whole different story. But right now they have to, I think they've got this initial feeling that people are like, okay, these people have made some pretty good decisions so far.
So overall, you think that
they've
built some goodwill?
Yeah, they've gotten, how can you lose when you get some of this good, positive publicity from the get-go? So we'll see.
All right, we'll see. Well, Kim, appreciate a few minutes of your time here.
Okay. I'm just the average football fan, but I'm interested in it. I'm interested. And I follow the social media of Sierra and Russell Wilson madly. So there you go.
And that has not been, God, I want their off-season life is amazing.
Oh, I know. But did you see his training yesterday? It was good. I'm telling you. He's always there. It's pretty incredible. So.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
We'll find out. But Kim, thanks so much.
Sure.